So this has been bugging me for a while, and I've been meaning to make this video for a while, and I'm just going to do it now. So people don't walk very well. I mean, in general, people don't walk very well. People are not mindful of their steps, they're not mindful of their gait. They don't take care of their health, of course, in a way that would allow them to, so there's all sorts of problems. There are problems the way that they gait that creates more problems. It's just this big clusterfuck of problem. So here's the thing. Everybody's got slightly different natural predispositions. Some people have slightly inwardly turned hips, and some people have slightly externally rotated hips. Basically, the toes point out or in. Your feet should be relatively forward. Now, people have observed that while running, and most especially sprinting, because of the forward tilt and momentum and everything, that a forefoot, or more appropriately a midfoot stride, is the most anatomically correct and least damaging. But people have also observed that heel-to-toe walking is in fact relatively normal. And because of the low impact nature of walking, it's not so bad. I still think midfoot is best in general, but you do have to allow for some individual variance. But here's the thing. There's a few styles of walking that I have observed in my time, and I don't have a common ranking for them or anything like that. But you have, okay, barring people who have, legitimate hip or knee problems or spinal problems or whatever that literally throws off their walk because of that, because I don't want to get into that at the moment. What I see a lot of is, you see a lot of people who lumber side to side when they walk. Shows a lot of weakness and inflexibility through the hips. It shows a very poor understanding of how we're supposed to walk. Our hips and knees, everything is designed for forward motion. We are simply just beautifully adapted for forward motion. Lateral motion is secondary at best and is really only for corrective purposes. We are built for forward motion. And that being the case, if your walking is kind of a side-to-side momentum swing of the hips, you are doing yourself a massive disservice. And you're going to really screw up your hip girdle and your spine and all that. So pay attention to that. But there's more. One of the more common ones that I see a lot of is when people take a step, they rise way up on the ball of their foot. They're aiming for a midfoot stride, but because of either the footwear they're wearing, wedges under your heels is a bad thing. Go with a flat shoe. Either they naturally want to walk on a midfoot or forefoot stride, but because of our footwear and everything, they tend to heel strike and then lift, and then they come crashing down with another heel strike and then lift. This is particularly problematic because they're striking the ground with a heel strike and coming down on it, on top of it. So not only are they removing the shock absorption of the ankle, but they're hitting with a heavy step and then rising and then bouncing. I'm exaggerating the motion, of course. This is extremely damaging over the long term to your knees and your hips. Extremely. And you will find that as you get older and less tolerant of injury, you will have problems. So if you're going to be a forefoot walker, which is perfectly fine, get some flat shoes, pay attention to your connection with the ground, develop a relationship with the ground. Gravity is holding us tight to it. You might as well have a good relationship with the ground and however you approach it and interact with it. The other one that I see is kind of a combination of those two. Is a very flat-footed walk where the person has to, they may flex their hips a little bit more, but they have to kind of shift to one side and lift their foot up, and they just plop down. Clop, clop, clop. Flat-footed. That is just as bad as both of them. It carries the damaging properties of both of them. It's simply not good. Your walking should not be of any significant impact. And we've known this for a long time. It was well observed, hundreds of years ago, over 1,000 years ago. Miyamoto Musashi wrote about walking in his Book of Five Rings. And he speaks of it as the proper way of walking is to not change your level, to have your foot barely come off the ground, to more or less glide. There should be no impact, there should be virtually no sound when you walk. You should not be able to see the sway of your hips or shoulders or anything like that, at least not beyond something of a relatively normal sway that would come from the weight shift. Walking should not require any swishing, should not require any turning or pivoting or anything like that in standard fashion. You really, really need to fix how you walk so that you are creating very, very little impact. Especially if you are a heel-to-toe walker. The more impact you have, the harder time you will have with it as you get older. So reduce the impact, make your walking more like gliding. Make it so you're not riding an invisible pony while you're walking. It's not how we should walk. So it's just a thought, but understand that if you can't walk well, how do you expect to run well? How do you expect to do stance work well? How do you expect to do any kind of tactical footwork well? You have to be able to do the simple things before you can do the complex things, and walking is as simple as it gets. And you should be walking every day, purposefully or as part of your job. However you find time to walk, you should be walking. It's what we're just built and adapted to do. Alright guys, I'll talk to you later. Good journey.